Why choosing mercy over resentment is the most powerful thing you can do for your heart and life. This one decision can heal your heart forever, and most people never choose it. I want you to imagine something with me right now. It's late at night, you're alone, your phone lights up. It's a message from someone who once shattered your heart. The kind of message that drags all the pain from the past into the present like it never left. Maybe it's your father who walked away. Maybe it's your best friend who betrayed your deepest trust. Or maybe it's just silence when you needed love most. Your chest tightens, your breath shortens, and you know exactly what's coming next. The same thing that has always come next, resentment. But what if this time, something different happens? What if this is the moment you finally choose mercy? What if this is the moment everything changes? Because today, I'm not just telling you a story. I'm walking with you through one of the most radical, heart-wrenching, and powerfully healing truths that Jesus Christ ever gave us. Choosing mercy over resentment is the most powerful thing you can do for your heart and your life. Let me take you into a moment that most people don't talk about. Jesus was on the cross. He was bleeding, suffocating, surrounded by mockers, betrayed by those he healed, abandoned by those he loved, and while the nails pierced his body, something far deeper was piercing his soul. But what came out of his mouth in that moment? "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Are you serious? Not rage, not curses, not divine judgment. Mercy. The most undeserved, unexplainable, soul-defying act of mercy ever spoken on this earth. And that one sentence, whispered through torn flesh and broken breath, echoes through time as the single most transformative power we will ever know. But here's the twist. You and we stand at that same crossroad every single time someone wrongs us. And how we respond determines not just how free they'll be, but how free we'll be. Let me tell you the story of Elijah. No, not the prophet. I'm talking about a man I met in the middle of a prison chapel. He was locked up for 20 years. 20 years of rage, of blaming, of hating, not just the world, but one man, his own father, who had abandoned him at 5. Elijah told me, every night, I replay the moment he walked away, and I swore, if I ever saw him again, I'd make him pay. But then, something wild happened. Elijah found Jesus. Not religion, not rules, Jesus. And one night, sitting in that cold cell, Elijah read the story of the cross. He said, I couldn't understand it. How could a man bleeding to death forgive the very people hammering in the nails? Then it hit him like lightning through his soul. He said, I realized I was letting someone else's sin keep me in prison long after the bars had closed. And with trembling hands and rivers of tears, Elijah did something he swore he never would. He forgave his father. He chose mercy. And I kid you not, he said he felt more free in that moment than in any day he'd ever spent outside. That's the crazy thing, right? We think resentment protects us. We think holding the pain, replaying the betrayal, building the wall, that all of that will somehow keep us from being hurt again. But it doesn't. It only makes the wound fester. And Jesus knew that. That's why he taught us something that feels so backward, so insane, and yet so healing. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. What if your freedom doesn't come from justice, but from releasing it? What if your healing doesn't come from someone saying, I'm sorry, but from you saying, I forgive you anyway? Let me ask you this, and I want you to really sit with this question. Who are you still carrying? Because some of us have been dragging people through our memories, our dreams, our conversations for years, people who may not even remember what they did, But every time their name is spoken, or a similar wound opens up, it's like we're bleeding all over again. But hear me when I say this. You don't have to keep bleeding. You don't have to keep reliving the trauma. You don't have to keep waiting for justice to start living again. Mercy doesn't deny what happened. It doesn't excuse evil. It doesn't say, "It was okay." Mercy just says, "It doesn't get to rule me anymore." Because here's the truth. Resentment keeps you in a cage, but mercy throws the door wide open. And Jesus didn't just talk about it, he lived it. Peter asked him one day, "Lord, how many times should I forgive? 7 times?" And Jesus smiled and said, "Not 7, 70 times 7. Translation, as many times as it takes. And if you think that's just poetic talk, let me blow your mind with something real. A woman named Maria had her only son taken from her in a senseless act of gang violence. She was shattered, her whole world imploded. And the man who did it, caught, convicted, life sentence. Everyone expected Maria to disappear in grief. But instead, she did the unthinkable. She started visiting the man in prison. Why? Because she said, hate was killing me too. She got to know him, heard his story, saw his brokenness. And over the years, she forgave him. Not only that, she advocated for his release. And when he got out, she helped him find a job. And one night, at a community event, she stood on stage with the man who had once stolen everything from her. And she called him, my adopted son. I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. And it felt like heaven broke open in that room. Because mercy, real mercy, doesn't just change the person receiving it. It transforms the person giving it. So what's holding you back? Who are you still keeping in that prison cell in your heart? And more importantly, why are you still locking yourself in there with them? Friend, I know it's hard. I know you were hurt. I know the betrayal cut deep. But I also know this. Jesus isn't just asking you to forgive. He's offering to walk through the forgiveness with you. Because mercy isn't weakness, it's the strongest, most courageous act you'll ever do. And when you release them, you release yourself. Don't let resentment rot your soul. Don't let unforgiveness become your identity. Choose mercy. Let go. And watch your heart begin to breathe again. Because when you choose mercy, you don't just look like Jesus. You meet him there, face to face. And that changes everything. The hidden power forgiveness unlocks in the middle of your greatest pain. When we think about forgiveness, it's easy to imagine something peaceful, serene, quiet, like a gentle letting go. But the truth is, sometimes mercy feels like going to war against your own pride, your own pain, and your own need to be right. Because the moment you try to forgive someone who doesn't deserve it, something starts to scream inside of you. Every memory, every scar, every unfair word, it all rises up to argue. They don't deserve mercy. And maybe they don't. But neither did we. You see, that's the scandal of grace, the absolute shock of the gospel, that while we were still sinners, still blind, broken, and stuck in our selfishness, Christ died for us. Not when we were sorry. Not when we were good. Not when we earned it. But when we were unworthy. That's why choosing mercy is the most powerful thing you can ever do. Not because it makes you better than the person who hurt you, but because it makes you more like the God who forgave you. Let me tell you about something that changed me forever. I was speaking at this youth camp, middle of nowhere, late summer, And after the message, this teenage girl came up to me, shaking, couldn't look me in the eyes. She said, "I need to tell you something I've never said out loud." She was abused by her uncle for years. And the worst part? Nobody believed her. She kept that pain buried like a ticking bomb inside her soul. Until that night. Because when she heard the story of Jesus forgiving from the cross, something inside her cracked wide open. She didn't just want to be healed. She wanted to be whole. And she realized something wild. Her future was being held hostage by her past, and the only way to reclaim it was to forgive. So right there, under a broken sky, she wept and whispered, "I forgive him." Not because he deserved it, but because she deserved peace. That's the wild, upside-down truth about mercy. It doesn't let evil off the hook. It puts it in God's hands. It doesn't say, "You win." It says, "God wins." Because when we hold on to resentment, we chain ourselves to pain that can never heal us. But when we let it go, we step into the same freedom that Jesus bought for us. So let me ask you something personal, and I don't ask this lightly. What's eating your joy from the inside? Whose name still makes your stomach twist? What memory still drags you back into bitterness every time you think you've moved on? Because I promise you this, mercy isn't just some holy suggestion. It's your only path to peace. And when you walk it, God meets you there with power you didn't even know you had. Here's proof. There's a man named Anthony. Grew up in Philly. Tough life. Lost his mom young. Raised by a single dad who drowned his grief in alcohol and fists. Every night was chaos, and by the time Anthony was 12, he was homeless, surviving on the streets, angry at the world. Eventually, he got his life together, made money, built a career, became respected. But there was this fire inside him that never died down. And one day, his father, now old, sick, dying, showed up at his door. Anthony said, "My first reaction was to slam the door in his face." But something stopped him. He remembered the words of Jesus, "If you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you." And Anthony realized he built his whole life trying to escape the boy who was never loved. But what if love, even now, could rewrite the ending? So Anthony let his dad in. Took care of him. Sat beside the man who once broke him. And one night, before his father passed, Anthony leaned in close and said, "I forgive you." Tears fell from both of their eyes. It was the first time they had truly been father and son. Not because everything was fixed, but because mercy gave them something the past could never offer. A second chance. That's what I need you to hear today. Mercy isn't about forgetting the past. It's about refusing to be chained by it. It's about saying, "This pain may be part of my story, but it will not be my prison." And that decision, it will transform your heart. Because resentment doesn't just live in your memories. It seeps into your relationships, your trust, your joy, your peace. It poisons everything it touches. But mercy heals. Mercy purifies. Mercy makes room for love to live again. Look at Jesus. He didn't just preach love. He lived it where it hurt most. He forgave the thief hanging beside him, a criminal dying for his own crimes. He forgave Peter, his best friend, who denied even knowing him. He forgave the very people who screamed for his crucifixion. Why? Because Jesus wasn't interested in holding grudges. He was too busy holding out grace. And now he calls us to do the same. I know it feels impossible. I know it feels unfair. But hear me on this. The command to forgive was never meant to be carried alone. That's why Jesus gives us His Spirit. To help us do what our hearts can't. To show us that mercy isn't a moment, it's a miracle. And maybe you need that miracle today. Maybe you're sitting in a storm of bitterness, wondering why life feels so heavy. Maybe you've tried everything: therapy, distance, distraction, but the pain still lingers. Maybe you're ready to try mercy. Not because you feel it, but because you trust that Jesus meant what He said. And I promise you, if you do, it'll be like spiritual surgery. Painful, yes, but life-saving. Because when you finally let go, when you choose to stop reliving what broke you, when you lay down your resentment at the foot of the cross, you make space for resurrection. You make space for a new story to begin. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to say this out loud, right where you are. You don't have to feel ready. Just say it in faith. I release them. I forgive them. I will not carry this pain one day longer. I am choosing mercy. I am choosing Christ. Did you feel that? That's the sound of chains breaking. Of your soul breathing again. Of heaven celebrating. Because mercy is more than a moment. It's the most powerful spiritual weapon you will ever hold. And when you wield it, even hell has to back down. This is what it means to be like Jesus. To choose love when you've been given hate. To offer grace when you've been handed grief. To say, I will not let resentment write my story. I belong to mercy now. So here's my challenge to you. Reach out. Write the letter. Make the call. Say the words. Even if they don't respond. Even if they never change. Because mercy isn't for their transformation. It's for yours. And when you choose it, you'll never be the same. The miracle waiting on the other side of letting go. There's something beautiful and terrifying about surrender. Especially when it comes to the pain we've held onto for so long that it's practically become part of our identity. You know what I mean? The kind of resentment that feels justified. The kind of anger that's made a home in your heart. The grudge that became a shield so you wouldn't be hurt again. But the truth is, what we think is protecting us is often what's actually imprisoning us. And the only way out is to let go. To surrender the bitterness. To release the offense. To lay down the sword we've been swinging for years, and finally open our arms to mercy. Because there's a miracle waiting on the other side of letting go. I saw it with my own eyes. It happened to a man named David. David was one of the most respected leaders in his church, but what nobody knew was that for 30 years, he carried a wound deeper than words. His brother had stolen their family business from under him. Lied, manipulated, took everything. David's parents died heartbroken. The family split apart, and David, he smiled in public, but rage lived behind his eyes. He said, "Every time I prayed, it was like there was a wall between me and God." Until one Sunday, during a message on the prodigal son, something broke inside him. You remember that story, right? The younger son takes his inheritance, blows it, ends up in a pig pen, and when he finally comes back, expecting wrath, the father runs to him, embraces him, celebrates him. But here's what hit David. The older brother couldn't rejoice because he was too resentful, too bitter, too self-righteous. David realized he was the older brother. And the father in the story? That's who Jesus was inviting him to become. That day, David did something radical. He called his brother, told him he forgave him, told him he wanted restoration more than revenge. And guess what? His brother broke, cried for the first time in decades, confessed everything, and that night, the two of them sat on the porch until sunrise, dreaming again like they were kids. Was it perfect? No. Was it easy? Not even close. But it was holy. That's what mercy does. It doesn't erase the pain, but it heals what justice alone never could. Because justice says, "You owe me." But mercy says, "God paid it." And if we're honest, every one of us has needed that kind of mercy at some point. That's why Jesus didn't say, "Forgive" when it makes sense. He said, "Forgive, as I have forgiven you." Which means this: you don't have to wait until you feel like forgiving. You just have to be willing to start. Because forgiveness isn't a finish line, it's a doorway, and every step you take through it brings more light, more peace, more God. So let me say something that may sound strange, but you need to hear it. Forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about who you're becoming. And when you choose mercy, you become free. You become like Jesus. You become someone who can love without chains, dream without fear, live without poison in your heart. But I get it. Some of you are still thinking, you don't know what they did. And you're right, I don't. But Jesus does. He sees it all, the wounds no one saw, the nights you cried alone, the trust that was shattered, the innocence that was stolen. He sees. And he weeps with you. But he also says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." He's not asking you to ignore the pain. He's offering to carry it. He's offering to walk with you through the valley. To hold your hand as you release the hate. To be your strength when yours runs out. Because mercy isn't something you do alone. It's something you do in the presence of God. And there, it becomes a miracle. I met a woman named Sarah once. Her daughter had been killed by a drunk driver. Every year, she lit a candle on the anniversary. But every year, the flame burned alongside her bitterness. Until one night, she had a dream. She saw her daughter, smiling, free, light in her eyes. And she heard a whisper, "Let me go, Mom, and let him go, too." Sarah woke up sobbing, and she knew what she had to do. So she found the man, went to the prison, sat across from him, and said, "I forgive you, not because it's easy, but because my daughter deserves to be remembered with love, not hatred." The man fell to the floor. And Sarah said she walked out of that prison 10 pounds lighter. Like her soul could breathe again for the first time in years. That's the miracle of mercy. It turns graves into gardens. It turns war zones into places of peace. It turns people like you and me, scarred, hurt, betrayed, into walking testimonies of grace. So let me ask you, right now, one last time. What's stopping you? What's keeping you from releasing that bitterness? What would your life look like if you finally let it go? Because here's the secret. Mercy isn't just for them. It's for you. It's for your peace, your joy, your future. And when you choose it, heaven rejoices. Chains fall. Hearts heal. And the kingdom of God shows up right here on earth. I want to end with this. Jesus told a story once. A king forgives a servant an enormous debt, millions. In today's terms, the man walks free, but then, that same servant goes out and strangles someone who owes him a few bucks. Throws him in prison. And when the king hears about it, he's furious. Not because the debt was unimportant, but because mercy given should become mercy extended. You've been forgiven much. So have I. We've all received grace we didn't deserve. And now we're invited to give it away. Not because people deserve it, but because God is building a kingdom where mercy reigns. So today, you have a choice. You can keep carrying the bitterness, or you can let God carry you. You can keep feeding the fire, or you can let mercy be the water that puts it out for good. You can keep being a prisoner to what they did, or you can walk free. And when you do, you'll discover something breathtaking. Mercy doesn't just change them, it transforms you. So go. Choose mercy. Forgive as you've been forgiven. And let the miracle begin. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Jesus, Matthew chapter 5 verse 7.